Just while we're on safety though, we've seen from the ONS and the TFL data that bus drivers have twice the likelihood of dying from COVID per 100,000 than the most dangerous occupations. What is TFL doing about that?
Sure, and it is it's a very complex issue because it's not necessarily the case, and people have argued this, but it's not just because they are bus drivers. It's also the community from which they come in some ways, and so the background. The BAME community tends to attract a lot of bus drivers, and there's a certain vulnerability in the BAME community, it would appear, to COVID. Plus, obviously, the nature of the job does mean you have interaction with other people. There's a certain demographic with a potential for underlying conditions, but none of that should be seen as unsolvable. So we have been taking putting real attention on protecting the drivers in terms of their working environment. So we've sealed up the cabs. The actual driver's cab in terms of the flow of air. We had Imperial College in to do a study of the airflows to see what the dynamics were in terms of air movement and where droplets or people's exhalation could invade the driver's cab. So that then led to the design by which we sealed those cabs. We have, at the very height of the pandemic, we introduced middle door boarding so that no one could board via the front door. We have taken extensive protection at depots, so one-way system in depots, social distancing in canteens, furloughing or not furloughing, putting on leave those people who are particularly vulnerable, those with underlying conditions, really leaving no stone unturned to make sure that our bus operators, and for that matter other TFL staff, but specific to your question, that bus operators are properly protected, because not unique to London, I have to say, it's the same in New York City. There does seem to be a real cluster around bus operators, and it's certainly something that we're very concerned about.
Yeah, I've got two questions.
Assemblymember Prince, you've got two questions left in this section. Can I move you on a little, because we will run out of time?
I'll just quickly ask these two questions,
okay.
and then I'll move on.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Very quickly then, the TFL death rate is double that of the national average. Now, I accept that the profile of TFL bus drivers might be different to the national average, but what have you done in places like, let's say, Manchester, Liverpool, the big conurbations where there's likely, Bradford, where it leads, but there's likely to be a similar community profile to what we get in London? What comparisons have you done with those other big cities rather than the national, because we know that there isn't the same sort of community profile, but where there's a similar profile? Have you looked at any other cities and what?
Sure. So we do, and not just within the UK actually, Keith. We look across the whole transport family across the world. We are talking to sister organisations in the UK, sister organisations in the US, across Europe, just to see, is there something that we're missing? Is there something that we're missing in the design of the job or the nature of the protection that we're offering? And actually, in most cases, we are leading the way in terms of the steps we've taken. Certainly, things like sealing up the cabs. Other agencies have followed us rather than us following their lead. But we continue that dialogue. We are in active discussion across the UK and internationally to see what more can we do to protect our valuable, wonderful bus operators.
And then, Andy, very quickly, do you think that it was the right decision to scale back on physical site visits at the height of lockdown? I mean, there may be reasons for that, but clearly you were then not inspecting bus garages to make sure that they were ticking all the boxes.
Well, so we have been doing some safety inspections virtually. Actually, there is a way of doing that, but I certainly I certainly advocate there's nothing better than an actual on-site visit, walking the job, using a checklist, talking to the local health and safety rep, looking at what the conditions are, making corrective actions. I think there's no substitute for actually walking the route and checking the and talking to the operators themselves. So, we are where we are, but I'm a big fan of and a big supporter of on-site inspections. That to me, that's the best way of doing the job.
Okay.
And if I might intercede, Andy,
So,
it is correct to say, and Heidi may have something to say on this, but you worked very closely with the unions during that period as well.
We did, and I'd like to thank them actually for the fact that they were so professional and they remain so in our common objective. That is, and there's no politics around this. This is a common objective that we want to keep their members, our colleagues, safe and healthy. And
they were very often your eyes and ears in bus garages.
They were, and they don't hold back, and neither should they. They've got legal obligations, and so do we. Where a rep raised an issue, we were straight onto it, be that a generic issue across a number of sites or a site-specific concern or even relating to a particular type of vehicle or whatever. In no instance did we ignore that. We immediately took action.